There's a scene in this movie where a character's describing a film and says that it's a bit boring. Unfortunately, I kind of agree with them about this. K-Dog's movie review. Stop Motion is the new horror directed by Robert Morgan and stars Aisling Franciosi. Franciosi plays a stop-motion animator struggling to create a film in her own vision, once finally given the freedom to do so. Ever since I saw the original trailer, I've been excited for this movie. With stop-motion animation, there's such an open canvas for creativity. The way in which the characters move and interact with their environments is purely left to the artist's imagination. It's exciting when that translates into horror, because the possibilities are endless. Stop motion can kind of have that uncanny valley feel to it. You can make the characters move in really off-putting ways. The images in the trailer were really creepy, and it didn't seem like another Nun Part 7 possession movie. So I was excited. And I gotta say...
Pam, would you smell my breath?
No. No.
Let me smell. Good, not great.
This movie was a little frustrating to me. It has some excellent ideas and horrific sequences, but the execution left much to be desired. This isn't your typical popcorn horror movie, with jump scares and creepy clowns screaming at the screen. This is a much more slow psychological burn. The movie takes its time, letting us bask in these slow scenes, which, when they work, they're great. But when they don't, it really kills the vibe. This movie was about an hour and a half long, and it felt way longer than that. I unfortunately checked my watch a few times, which is never a good sign for me. So let's get into it. The acting is great. Franciosi does a phenomenal job playing the tormented artist. She's on screen for at least 95% of this movie, and you can tell she's putting in 100% effort into her performance. Supporting cast was fine too, but Franciosi is really the standout here. Sound design is also fucking awesome. This movie can feel very intimate and claustrophobic at times, and there were scenes that were heavily elevated by just the sound design alone. There wasn't much of a score that I remember, to be honest, but I was fine with that. I love when a movie, especially a horror movie, has the confidence to let the audience just experience the events as is without music. It can make it feel more authentic and chilling. As I said before, the trailer had some really spooky stop-motion imagery. That definitely translates here at times. I'm a big proponent of practical effects too, and here they were done really well. But as I said, it's limited, and that's really where my frustration begins. The idea for this movie is great. I was fully on board with the movie's premise, but the script is, well, dull. There were scenes that felt tacked on and really drawn out just for the sake of runtime. I felt as if they could have done so much more creatively with the ideas and themes they were going for, which is unfortunate because this was something I was heavily looking forward to in a movie about stop-motion animation. As I said, this is more of a slow burn. Even with it sounding great and having some spooky imagery, the movie is very lackluster when it comes to setting and cinematography. If we are going to slow down and descend into madness as this movie does, I need that extra form of engagement in the sense of visuals at least. There's some color, but a lot of this movie is a dull gray. Slowing down and focusing on particular moments is fine, but when it's done in a boring way, I check out. So overall, I had a meh time with this movie, which is unfortunate because it has some interesting, unique ideas and feels on the cusp of being a horror classic. I want to be able to champion horror that goes beyond the mainstream. I feel with a tightened script, more interesting characters that I cared about, and more exciting visuals, it could have been so much better. It was tough to talk about this script without getting into spoilers, but this movie was weird because it feels more fun to actually talk about it than it was to experience seeing it. Basically, our protagonist lives with their mom and not only acts as their caretaker, but is also their stop-motion animation technician. Their mom has severe arthritis, but is also a filmmaker. She's very overbearing, so our main character must put up with all of their demands, which is tough, especially in a creative form such as stop motion that is already very labor intensive. Her mother suffers a stroke and eventually dies, giving our character the freedom to create her own masterpiece. She eventually goes down a dark path using real human flesh to create stop motion characters. To me, this movie is about someone who has unfortunately acted as a stop motion character their entire life, a puppet on a string, told exactly what to do and how to do it their entire life. Once given the freedom to express themselves, they crumble under the pressure to create the perfect piece of art and descend into madness. The kernels were there. As I said, the idea is great and stop motion can really be spooky. But nothing terribly exciting happens in this movie. There are a few great scenes, like when the Ash Man, the horror movie's villain, ascends from her movie set and chases her. The practical effects are great. He's grotesque, but it's limited. I'm also not particularly into body horror, so while the ending scenes were effective at showing how insane she's become, ripping apart her own skin to use that in her movie, it felt kind of indulgent and drawn out. The effectiveness of what was happening was already there. It just felt like the camera really just stuck to it. I will say though, the sound design of this scene really heightened the horror of it. Ugh, even if you were closing your eyes or looking away from the screen, the sound of her picking apart her thigh was just ugh. So anyway, it's shown pretty early on that the little girl in the trailer is in our main character's head and serves as her intrusive, horrific thoughts. Okay, that's fine. We're slowly seeing this artist let those thoughts win and do more and more horrific things. But it's too slow and not terribly interesting. The child actor does a fine job, but they aren't really charismatic or spooky enough to give those scenes a heightened sense of excitement or tension. Again, this movie was frustrating because it felt caught in between being too artsy and too real. Out of body artistic scenes would happen, but they'd be followed up with grounded realism scenes with our main character's boyfriend, which really took me out of the movie. It felt like the movie was having an identity crisis and couldn't really commit either way. Critics won't pick apart a movie for not being real if it's not presented in that way. I feel as if they should have gone full art mode and throw in more exciting visuals, representing her search for the perfect scene, or go into her freedom of expression more outside of the movie if that's what you want to do, because many of these scenes are just in her apartment. Let me know what you guys thought of this movie in the comments below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you think it was kind of meh like me? Also, there's a scene in this movie where our character is forced to eat this thing given to her by the Ash Man. Please tell me in the comments below what the hell that was or what it was supposed to represent. It seemed like something, but I just couldn't figure it out. Till next time.